Hello, gorgeous souls. Welcome back to book study of Dr. David R. Hawkins with Nicky. Today, we're gonna go to page 216 of Map of Consciousness. We're still doing the same book. The experiencer, leading edge of the ego. People ask, why can I get beyond this? I feel stuck. The stuckness is because each of the levels has a payoff related to ingrained attitudes, which arise out of our animal nature. If there were no payoff, nobody would stay there. To evolve, you only need to know one thing. What holds you back is the juice, payoff, and satisfaction you get from being where you are. As is commonly said, let's use it for all we can. If you're willing to let go of the payoffs that the ego gets, by being where it is, the barrier dissolves. And this makes me think of last year. I was in such a high state of ecstasy. Right now I feel it. I can take myself into ecstasy bliss and also take myself a little bit more down into groundness. And that's a different aspect, and then I can be more proactive or more hyper, and this is more like a peaceful, relaxed, blissful, orgasmic state. And that was the payoff. When I'm in that state of ecstasy, which I'm feeling a bit now, it's a lot of pleasure. I feel pleasure in all my bodies, emotional, physical, energetic. So that's the payoff and the barrier of ecstasy level. The state is not completely integrated, because if not, I would always stay there. It bounces back because I'm clearing some karmas and integrating some aspects of myself. I talk about that in the video of foundations, boundaries, and breakups and makeups. I'll link it here. But that's one of the payoffs of this state. Hawkins state that he spent many years on ecstasy, integrated ecstasy. So he was dancing, non-sleeping. It's exactly the same state that you may feel, well, I don't know if you have tried it, but people that have done MDMA, it's kind of like that state of exquisite, delicious energy that you're just there, so peaceful, so loving. What I'm feeling right now. So when we are in that state of consciousness, integrated, to go to the next level, which would be peace, one must let go of the exquisite pleasure of blissful ecstasy. And that's what the ego sees as gain, as juice. And every state has a juice. If you're in a state of wisdom, empowerment, the juice is feeling, I'm so empowered, or I'm so wise, or who is I? Is it the ego that's feeling that it's being wise, but it's just the field. Every time you're in a state of consciousness, it's just the field of that state that's being transmitted through you. To transcend any ego positionality, the place to start is with the experiencer, which is the leading edge of the ego. It is like an information probe, always seeking an experience, always searching for the payoff, always looking for a gain. So another decision that I made last year was, I was in such a high state that the experiencer wanted to play, wanted to go out, create stories, create dramas, create something going on, which of course takes me out of that state. And whenever I feel that state, I remain there and I don't feel curiosity for doing something else, for interaction. Then I don't have to keep creating cause and effects, karma scenarios, and I can keep evolving and integrating and advancing. But that was more like, bliss, ecstasy, beautiful. What else? I'm bored now. Who's bored? The ego is bored because he wanted to experience, he, she, it wanted to experience something. A movie, cinema, movie being the movie of life. For life to survive, the experiencer of the ego had to constantly obtain data, such as edible, not edible, and friend, foe. Edible, it's Hawkins describes molecules, like when we are on Instagram, for example, and we're scrolling, it's like yum, 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 molecules, like something to look at, something that gives us a sense of there's something happening. Or some people call it dopamine, but it's just what's going on here, what's in the TV, what's in the news, it's one of Hawkins' set songs. He's like, what's on the TV tonight, what's on the news, now it would be what's on Instagram, what's in the podcast, what's in this YouTube channel. If we just let go of wanting to experience or to know what's going on with the world, and we just sat down in meditation and silence, even right now, if I just keep this state, and instead of my ego wanting to come here and make a video about it, I can take it higher. But the experiencer wants to share it with the world. It's not bad because it's not an ego desire coming from only my gain. I'm serving others while I do it. But I can also choose to not share and go into a higher state if I didn't have an ego payoff for making this video. Hopefully that made sense. It's like a riddle. Friend or foe? What experience gives me gain? What experience gives me pleasure? Human ego, it's looking for something that gives its pleasure, but at the end, what we're all looking for is God. It's not the relationship, it's not the job, it's not the career, it's not the trip, it's all looking for God, looking for that sense of union and wholeness that we only find when we pursue and allow self-realization, enlightenment, healing. Instead of worrying about the entire structure of the ego, we focus on its leading edge, which is the experiencer. So if we always try to think, who is the ego, who is talking, who is I, that's what Ramana Maharshi suggested, self-inquiry, it's really beneficial because we stay in the awareness beyond the I, the awareness of whatever it is that is talking, experiencing, and creating thought forms. But Hawkins states, if we focus on the leading edge, what of the ego do I need to surrender? What is my highest, I don't know if it's dana, I'm not really familiar with the Hinduism teachings, they call it dana or sana, or I'll look that up, but it's desire, what gives you attached. And apparently these danas, if that's what it's called, keeps you in the world because your desire will never be fulfilled. You will have a higher desire, a higher dana all the time, and it always keeps creating the karma of, then I want something more. So if we release all desires, all the ego's leading edge, what's that thing that gives you a sense of unease? Like something that if you want to create, it gives you, I want it now, or if not, I'm not happy. That's not peace, that's not freedom, that's the leading edge of the ego. The experiencer is the processor that constantly determines what's good, what's poisonous, who's the enemy, who's the friend, and very quickly. In 1/10,000 of a second, I love that he says that. He says that thoughts come in 1/10,000 of a second. So we cannot even start to control. We cannot even imagine that we're going to control the thought forms. We can just witness them because they just go all the time. We can just detach ourselves from believing that we are creating those thought forms. That's the field that we are transcending at the moment that's bringing those thought forms. If you are in a high field of love, you're going to bring thought forms of love. If you are in a field of despair, you're going to bring thought forms to the field of all the people, the beings that are having in the same field, those thoughts come. So that's why it's so beautiful to ascend in consciousness, because then you start resonating with higher thought forms. And then I learned that it doesn't matter if we have different aspects. That's why I talk about integration. An aspect of me can get into these high levels, but then I had to carry my inner child, an aspect of me that still needed healing. So that's why it doesn't stay at this moment completely always in ecstasy, because 10,000 of a second, I'm like, what am I talking about? Because the thought forms of that aspect of myself go so fast that I just need to transcend them. I just need to witness them. I need to integrate them. I need to love them. I need to love every aspect of myself so it integrates into the whole of me. And maybe it's beneficial for you because you could be dealing with the same process. Maybe you have an aspect of yourself that can get into these higher states of meditations, but then something in the outside world triggers you and you get out of that state, and you're like, but I thought that I was already there, and how can this take me out of my practice? It's completely normal, because Hawkins states that whenever we conquer a state of consciousness, not conquer, but embody, everything that's the opposite is going to come up. So if I want to embody unconditional love, everything that's not love is going to come for me to heal and transmute and pay off the karma. If I'm embodying a state of ecstasy, bliss, anything that's not blissful and delicious is going to come painful, less preferable. It's going to come up for me to integrate. So it's completely normal. No combination of computers could possibly do if it's just far too complex. He's talking about caching the thoughts. Because it includes value, meaning, significance, and prioritization. A computer cannot do that because it does not value one thing higher than another. A computer does not think more highly of this bit of information than it does of that information, but your ego processor does. The experiencer, he's saying that the ego values some thoughts more than others because the ego associates more payoff or benefit in some thoughts than in others. The experiencer is 1/10,000 of a second removed from reality. Therefore, the ego never experiences what is. It experiences its experience of what is. So because thoughts go so fast, if you have thought forms that block the truth, you're not going to experience reality, because you're going to experience your perception of reality by the filter or the lens of that thought forms of the field of consciousness that you're abiding more of in that moment. I love this. By analogy, it's not experiencing that which is being recorded. It is experiencing the playback from the recorder. So you're not experiencing feeling transmutation. You're not experiencing the movie. You're just experiencing if everybody was filming the interaction you had. I just went and had dinner with my parents. So if I wasn't really experiencing that completely, 100%, if I was completely enlightened, then probably I would have. But because I'm not in this now moment, although we're already enlightened in the absolute level, I was experiencing the recording of the whole interaction by the filter that I chose to have in that moment. The less blocks I have, the more I can experience the reality of the experience, which is just love and light. Where am I? This side of 1/10,000 of a second, the trees look like trees and the flowers look like flowers. On the other side of that 10,000 of a second, they radiate out divinity. Enlightenment is to bypass the experiencer. Exactly. So what I was talking about the dinner of my parents, or with my parents, is what he's saying about the flowers and the trees. In one hand, I was seeing my mom and my dad. And in one hand, the experiencer is seeing the flowers and the trees. But a completely enlightened being, every moment just sees divinity, radiates the essence, and everything is beautiful. I remember there's a video of Hawkins where he says that he was walking in a dark alley, super pure neighborhood, and he was in love, almost crying of ecstasy and bliss, because everything, the garbage, the rats, everything he saw was divinity. That's just amazing. Enlightenment is to bypass the experiencer. When we don't have any more filters, distortions, or illusions, we're in that state of pure enlightenment. The experiencer just suddenly goes out. It does not get weaker and weaker. It is simply and suddenly extinguished. And then the mind goes silent in awe. Ultimately, what human beings are addicted to is experiencing. That's why we keep changing the channel, turning on the music, playing games, and eating a bite of this and that. Why are we hooked on experiencing? Because out of evolution, it was through experiencing that the animals survived. Experiencing keeps the ego alive because it has no inner source of spiritual energy. Wow, I read a bit more than I wanted to read. I like to make these videos short, but it was just so interesting. Though feeling such a high state, so grateful. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. The ego wants energy to survive from its animal nature. That's why it goes to experiencing. But spirit doesn't need anything from the outside world to feel complete or excited or that something's happening, because all that we need, even as cliche as it sounds, is inside of us, because we are all light. We're just remembering that we are everything. Just feeling that silent awe right now. Just that subtle silence of God, of all that is. Through me, through you, through my heart, through your heart. With the intention of allowing more of this state for us. This beautiful love, this beautiful light. To remove all blocks or illusions, all distortions. So we can always stand in truth. Allow the vessel, the karmic wind-up toy, to be as it is. Thank you for tuning in. I love you, my friend.